Who killed Jesus? Notes prepared by Father Trevor de Souza, OFM, Franciscan. Introduction. The question, who killed Jesus, has echoed through history with theological, historical, and spiritual weight. To answer it from a Catholic perspective, let us examine the different layers of understanding: historical events, religious motivations, spiritual implications, and biblical insights. We will also consider the teachings of the Catholic Church and the reflections of the early Church Fathers. Historical perspective: the role of Roman authority. Let us begin with the historical context. Jesus lived during the Roman occupation of Judea, and his crucifixion was carried out by Roman soldiers under the governance of Pontius Pilate. The Bible in Matthew 27 verses 1-2 clearly states, "When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate the governor." Though Pilate personally found no guilt in Jesus and desired to release him, he ultimately yielded to public pressure. In Luke 23 verses 23-24, we read, "But they were urgent, demanding with loud cries that he should be crucified. And their voices prevailed. So Pilate decided that their demand should be granted." Thus, historically, the Roman authority executed the sentence of crucifixion. Religious perspective: the involvement of Jewish leaders. Let us now examine the religious dimension. The Jewish religious leaders of the time, specifically the chief priests and elders, played a significant role in the events that led to Jesus' death. They accused him of blasphemy and sought his execution. However, since they lacked the authority to carry out capital punishment, they delivered Jesus to the Romans. Luke 23 verses 1-2 shows this transition of responsibility. "Then the whole company of them arose and brought him before Pilate. And they began to accuse him." The religious leaders stirred the crowd and incited them to demand crucifixion, even when Pilate tried to release Jesus. Their role was one of instigation and accusation. Spiritual perspective: the role of all humanity. While history and religion help identify those directly involved, Catholic teaching urges us to look deeper. Spiritually, the death of Jesus is not solely the result of Roman or Jewish actions. It is a consequence of sin itself, the sin of all humanity. Jesus died for the sins of the world. Therefore, each sinner bears a share of responsibility. As the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches in Catechism of the Catholic Church 598, sinners were the authors and the ministers of all the sufferings that the Divine Redeemer endured. It continues, "The Church does not hesitate to impute to Christians the gravest responsibility for the torments inflicted upon Jesus. Our sins made the Lord Christ suffer the torment of the cross." Thus, from a spiritual standpoint, all who sin, past, present, and future, are participants in the suffering and death of Christ. Biblical reflection: the foreknowledge and plan of God. The Bible also points us to a divine mystery. Jesus' death was not only the result of human action, but part of God's saving plan. In Acts 2 verse 23, St. Peter boldly declares, "This Jesus, delivered up according to the definite plan and foreknowledge of God, you crucified and killed by the hands of lawless men." This verse reveals a tension between divine sovereignty and human responsibility. Moreover, in John 19 verse 11, Jesus tells Pilate, "You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above." This acknowledges that even those who condemned him were operating within a larger divine purpose. Voices of the early Church. The early Christians deeply reflected on this mystery. Let us examine what the Church Fathers taught. Saint Peter Chrysologus, 5th century, succinctly stated, "The guilt is ours, but the pardon is God's." Saint Melito of Sardis, 2nd century, in his powerful homily on the Pascha, declared, "God has been murdered, the King of Israel has been destroyed by an Israelite hand, he who hung the earth in place is hanged. These testimonies show that the early church acknowledged the human guilt, particularly their own, while also recognizing the divine mercy and plan behind Jesus' suffering. Conclusion: a mystery of love and redemption. So, who killed Jesus? Historically, it was the Romans. Religiously, it was the Jewish leaders. Spiritually, it was every sinner, including us. Yet above all, Jesus gave himself willingly as part of the Father's saving plan. His death is not merely a tragedy but a triumph of divine love. Let us remember what Jesus said in John 10 verse 18, "No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord." Jesus chose the cross for our redemption. Therefore, instead of casting blame, let us approach the cross with humility, gratitude, and the resolve to live in the light of His love and forgiveness.